Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Creating a Pitch Deck That Gets Results in Ask Me Anything with Ira M. Gostin. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving inclusion, access, and knowledge in entrepreneurship. So as you will see in the chat in a moment, the Nasdaq Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs regardless of race, industry, or geography. So check out those links and resources in the chat. And then just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you're dialing in from in the chat. Always great to connect. And second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event, as well as throughout the event. We'll try to sprinkle those in. So please submit your questions for us in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will try our best to get to as many of them as possible. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, Airbnb, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, Microsoft Entrepreneurship for Positive Impact, BPM, and HubSpot for startups. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. Awesome. Texas, Nevada, Nebraska, Maryland, Georgia, Chicago, Austria. Welcome, welcome, everyone. So great to have you all here. So before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls to see how everyone's doing in the room today. This first one is going to ask, how are you feeling? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? Give it a couple moments for everyone to think about it and submit a response here. Thank you, as always, for participating. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share these results. Optimism in the lead. We always love to see that, but we do have some feelings of anxiety and surviving in the audience. So hopefully some of the questions we answer today will help address that. I'm going to stop sharing this poll and launch the second poll. What is keeping you up at night? Finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? And this one gives us a better idea of your current entrepreneurial needs so we can continue providing content that matters to you. Give this one a couple more seconds. Thank you again for participating. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share these results. Finance in the lead, fitting for our conversation today, but really, definitely we have some needs all across the board. So thank you for your input. We will take this into account as we continue to develop programming. I'm going to stop sharing this poll. And without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our special guest, Ira M. Gostin, Chief Strategist and founder of G8 Strategies. Ira, it is such a pleasure to have you back.
Hello, I am thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, we hosted you back in March, and during that session, you kind of demonstrated the guiding principles for creating a pitch deck that gets results. And we got tons of questions from entrepreneurs in the audience. So I figure we just try to get through as many of them as possible. Sound good?
Excellent. Yep, I'm ready to go. And I'll just mention, if you did not attend the full pitch deck presentation, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Michelle will give you my email later on, but I'm happy to send you the deck. And I've got some other cool little forms for entrepreneurs to help you get started with your storytelling, and happy to send those along to you.
Awesome. Always appreciate it. And yes, we will share Ira's contact information following the event. So to start us off, can you maybe lay some groundwork by telling us how storytelling can help entrepreneurs connect with potential clients, partners, investors?
So, I think that there somewhere was a workshop for entrepreneurs about what needs to be in your pitch deck. And it turned something like a pitch deck into a very mechanical tool. And it's not. It has to be an emotional. I mean, when I do a business pitch, I'm exhausted afterwards. I pour my guts into that thing. And so you have to answer questions. There's certain questions that you have to answer, but you have to be a passionate entrepreneur. When a company is thinking about investing in you, they want to understand the significant impact, your value proposition. And when you make a mechanical deck, it kind of answers static questions, but it doesn't tell a story. And, a small introduction deck of 8 slides can tell a little story. It can introduce a challenge. It can introduce a solution. It can then introduce of what you need from that person, what's their call to action, at the same time while telling them a story. Stories resonate 22 times more in the human brain than facts and figures alone. So, when you basically put up a slide with 642 words on it and then read the slide, that person's already off on, I'm going to be playing golf this afternoon. I wonder what the weather's like. I hope they have beer there. Like you're lost. They don't hear you. So when you tell a story, stories have a cadence. And then when you put your emotion into it, now it's something that engages. And when you can tell a story, engage, and give information, you're going to get that. Now, they might not be for them, but if you're connecting with the right person, you're going to have a much better chance of closing some kind of deal, whatever your outcome needs to be.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important, especially because these conversations are really about collaboration to some degree, and that requires a level of connection and understanding of the other party. So that deeper level, besides just those facts and figures, is so critical. So switching gears a bit, we have this term, the elevator pitch. What are your thoughts on an elevator pitch? How do you create one? When would be the right circumstances to kind of utilize those statements?
So if you're an entrepreneur or a founder or a business owner, we kind of cross over a bunch of boundaries here. And, if you own a brick and mortar business, you're still an entrepreneur. I mean, you're still dealing with risk. And that's, to me, the number one definition of an entrepreneur. And if you have a job and you work for someone else, you're still their representative. So an elevator pitch should not be overthought. It should be thought out, but you're not looking for a sale. You're not looking for a purchase order. You're not looking. There's one response to an elevator pitch that you want to hear. That's interesting. I'd like to know more. Now you schedule your pitch deck where you bring your deck in or your video, and you have that deeper conversation. So my elevator pitch, I have several of them. Some of them are rehearsed, some of them depends on the audience, but it should be directly to your audience. So for me, if last week I was at, I saw somebody from Chicago here. I was in Chicago for an investor relations conference. And, it's simply, hi, I'm Ira, and I am the managing director and chief strategist at GH Strategies. And we help companies, public and private, tell their story to get marketing results. That's it. And I'm not seeing, these are colleagues, not clients. So I've mentioned that I have an agency, kind of what my role is, what our focus is, and that's it. I have heard elevator pitches that go on and on and on and on, and you got to stop yourself. And I'm a big fan of design thinking. I probably mentioned it when I was here last time. And they have there's a test in the design thinking. The last thing that you do in the process is you test it. So go to a Chamber of Commerce and event and test it out. Try it. Test it on your friends. You have to memorize it. You can't read it. You have to. It has to be part of your fiber. My favorite elevator pitch story. I was at a conference of entrepreneurs, and it was a little speed dating kind of thing, and we're all meeting. And I had somebody go, "Huh, you're of no value to me," and walked away.
Oh.
And I was like, I was stunned because it was like I've never had anybody be that blunt before. But okay, cool. Like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about talking to that guy. It was pretty funny, but and we've crossed paths a couple of times, and I've now completely thrown it back at him and gone, "Oh, no, I know I'm not of any value to you, so I won't stop and say hi."
Oh, I love it. But I love this idea of kind of thinking about the elevator pitch more as kind of a hook into a deeper conversation versus kind of just immediately diving into the conversation. It's kind of, playing that long game can really I think maybe help build your credibility and the interest that people may have in what you're doing. So I love that.
You hit on the long game part. I love, I use LinkedIn quite a bit, and it's my number one lead generator. But when I connect with somebody, I don't pitch them on my business for 2 or 3 messages. It's not, we've all gotten, if you're on LinkedIn, you've gotten one of those, "Hey, I saw your website and boy, could we help you improve it?" Like, okay, hey, thanks for just calling me an idiot. And as opposed to, I stumbled on your website. I thought your business is really interesting. I'd love to connect here and engage down the road. And then maybe it's like, "Hey, I saw this article. I thought of you, since we just kind of met, and here's," you have to play the long game. You will offend people and get reported and blocked if you just immediately throw into sales. So don't make it about sales. Sales is so hard for all of us. Don't make it about sales. Just make it about, "Hey, this is what I do and this is what I'm passionate about. And, shake your hand and let's chat and see where it goes."
Amazing. I love that. Awesome. And so switching gears again, if you run a business that's failed and you're trying to restart, what are some steps that you should take to not only restart but raise the capital that you'll need to kind of sustain the business?
It's a complicated question because businesses fail all the time, and it's not as horrific as we might think. I mean, obviously, if your business has failed, it is horrific at the moment. But so the first thing you need to understand is you need to break down what happened. You need to be able to have a conversation about what happened to your business. If you're restarting it in some other degree, it's the 300-pound elephant in the corner of the room. Get it out in the open. Like, "Hey, if you remember, I was here 6 months ago, and I pitched you on XYZ Co. and it failed. So I'd like to just address where we went wrong and why maybe you didn't invest in us then. And I'd like to get into why you should invest in us now." Just get it out in the open. When I talk to students about their resumes and looking for a job, they're mortified to bring up money. And it's like, the money is where, nobody was going to go work for somebody for free. So, I tell them, just say, I know this is kind of awkward on our first call, but could you tell me what the range of the salary is? And, if they're like, oh yeah, we're really excited, we'll be offering, between 10 and 14,000 a year. And you're like, okay, well, that's great, but that's not for me because I actually live in California and I can't afford to walk out the door for that. So then, there's nobody's time's wasted and you're not rude about it. You're just, so business is the same way. You have to get those awkward conversations out of the way and present the information, but make sure you've really done your homework. So you can say, we were bootstrapping and we realized this was going to all cost way more than we thought. We didn't have a CFO. We were kind of doing it ourselves. So we stopped, we regrouped, we looked at our product offering and our value proposition, whatever it is. We brought in a fractional CFO to really manage the investment that companies are going to make us in, and we're ready to go. We still have a viable product or a viable service, and we just had a little bit of a pause, but we're ready to go now, and then explain why.
Right. I love that. And I think that transparency ties back to the story itself, that we're highlighting as being so important to this whole process. In that, you can frame it. You don't have to frame it in the way that necessarily you've experienced it or that your negative thoughts have made you feel about what that experience was like. There are different ways to frame that story while still being transparent about what the experience was like. And I also love that idea of just doubling down on your financial strategy before going into those conversations.
Yeah. Any entrepreneur that says, failure is looked at negatively is wrong. Failure without a lesson attached to it is not so good. But, James Dyson, the guy, the Dyson vacuum cleaner, I think he had 300 products that completely crashed and burned before he came up with the technology on the Dyson vacuum.
Right.
So it's going to happen, but just be able to talk about that. And, it's not spin. Spin is a little more fabricated. This is just factual information, transparency, and the confidence of you as a CEO to say, hey, you know what, I made a mistake. I misjudged this. And, I brought some new advisors in and I'm working with some people. And now I feel like we're really ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It really shows, your growth as a leader. Amazing. So looking at the pitch itself then and your communication strategy, what advice can you offer to entrepreneurs that are looking maybe for partnerships or sponsorships rather than investor support when it comes to best practices for pitching?
I know they're totally different, but so let's say you're looking, let's say you want to put on an event. And you're going to do, we're going to do a Sacramento foodie event. We'll just make stuff up here. So you're not selling anything, but you're selling an attitude, a feeling, and a belonging, right? What events are, there's a sense of belonging, community. Community is a really huge piece of events. So, it's just like any other pitch. What's the opportunity or the challenge? The opportunity is that doesn't exist a foodie event in Sacramento. There may or may not, but that is for a certain demographic where there'll be wine tastings and food tastings and a chef showcase. And you can tell it's almost lunchtime. So I'm like, Like that popped into my head. So you introduce the opportunity, then you introduce your solution. It's introducing the Sacramento Foodie Fest. August 1st, blah blah blah. Really simple, really simple. Do not go into the weeds about how cool it's going to be. This isn't the time. You'll have a bigger deck when you get ready to have that second meeting. Then the value proposition. So what? Who cares? Why is this important? Why does the community need us? That's going to be your value proposition. For something like where you're getting a sponsorship, you're going to introduce who your team is, who's involved. Do you have advisors? Is Martha Stewart an advisor? Is she going to bring Snoop Dogg? These are important things. Like, what kind of scale are you trying to build here with this event? If you've done other events like this before, have a case study. This is what we did. This is how many people attended. This is the value per dollar spent that our sponsors got. Maybe a nice testimonial from, hey, I did this event with Ira in San Jose last year. It was a huge success. We were pleased to be a sponsor. Great. Okay. Any technical things, and then how to reach you, and then there should be an ask. The slide is, what is the ask? Here's my sponsor levels. Here's why you should invest in this event. So a summary. And then your contact info, 8 slides. So if you look at it as, I'm not really doing a pitch, I'm doing a sponsorship, you're going to find you're far away from that. But if you just look at it as it's a different kind of a pitch, you're still asking for the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And it becomes clear when you kind of use the word like, they're investing their time, with the example that you gave, it's still an investment of sorts, just of a different type, whether it's time, resources versus finances in particular. So I think that's great. Just to close us out, before we jump into a couple live Q&A questions, tips that you have, if you think you have a complex story and you're trying to simplify it, and on the other hand, what if you feel that your story is mundane? What are some ways that you can enhance it?
Sticky notes. If you are in the middle of trying to craft your story, go buy a bunch of different colored sticky notes and black Sharpies, and find a wall in your house or your apartment or on the back of your car and start brainstorming. And just go through that again. What is the opportunity or the challenge I'm trying to solve? And then keep asking yourself, so what? We when we do a brainstorm session, we'll probably have 200 pieces of paper on the wall. Wow. And don't stop. You don't just go, 3 ideas, that's great. 3,000 ideas is great. We use different colors. So if we're working with a client, we'll have value proposition, value items. What is that? Will be one color. So what will be another color. Key differentiators will be another color. We usually do 3 to 5 different colors. And then we start moving stuff around the wall. And then once we get all these ideas out and we're exhausted, we'll go to lunch, and then we come back and then we start putting them in order. We start tell a story. A story has a beginning, middle, and an end. It also has a hero. Yeah. And one of the things that people get stuck on is they're like, well, I'm coming up with the solution, so I'm the hero. And that's not the case.
Yeah.
And when you get that kind of pitch, you know it right away. And I'll give you a quick example of this, and then I'll kind of wrap that piece up. So I'm a mentor for a couple accelerators, and they're practicing their pitches, and they've got 6 minutes to do their pitch. And if I don't understand clearly what they're saying in 20 seconds, I will stop them and I'll hit the buzzer, because it's like you've just used up a high percentage of your time, and I still don't know what you do. Engineers and technical people, so any kind of tech stuff, they tend to get really excited about the technical aspects.
Right.
I don't particularly care how the cursor moves around my screen. I just want to know that the mouse works. So I don't need to know why the mouse works. I just need to know that it's been tested and that there's 3 lasers in it and it's super accurate. And so don't spend 3.5, 4 minutes of your 6-minute pitch telling me about the special titanium wheel, and like, I don't care yet. Like later, when I want to know how much to invest, then we'll get into that. But at that initial stage, tell your story and then just craft it out. And like I said, I have a worksheet I'll send out to whoever wants it. That's kind of helps you go through your storytelling construction.
Awesome. That's super helpful. All right, let's try and get through a couple of these questions in the live Q&A. So what are the most important selling points if you're looking for investors who are investing in startups through alternative funding? If I'm understanding this question correctly, how might that look different, from an angel or a venture capitalist?
It's really not. I mean, there's stages of investing. So there's self-funded, bootstrapping basically. Then there's the F&F round. That's, the friends and family. So if you haven't given up your idea by the time you've hit all your family members up to invest in your little business, then you're either into an A round or you're into a private placement round. It doesn't really matter. You want to be able to have the same conversation with someone that's going to write a check for $500,000 that will write a check for $500. They want to know how they're going to make money, what your time frame is, and if your ask slide ends with "and Facebook is going to buy me," just save yourself some heartburn and stop, because you've got a better chance of getting hit up by lightning on 2 sides of the street and then winning the lottery than you do of Facebook buying you. So don't use that as a exit strategy.
Awesome. That's super helpful. And so then to ask this a bit more generally, can you briefly talk about soft traction and how you might translate what that looks like for your business and how to communicate that?
I'm not sure what soft traction is, to be honest.
Okay, maybe whoever asked this can
you
afterwards
online?
Or clarify. But I'll move on to a different question for now. If you have a mission-driven firm, how might you balance the emotional side of the story and the numbers part? How might you think about what should take up more space? I guess considering your audience.
So yeah, if you're, you have to break it back down into the formula. So if you're a mission-driven firm, I'll give you an example. We have a nonprofit client called Feeding Pets of the Homeless. Pretty obvious what they do. And we make the story all about the saving pets' lives. We're not, the story is very narrow. So, but that's the value proposition. So, break it back down into the technical of what are we trying to say. So our mission, I actually talked to somebody from the last time that has a very mission-driven business. And, we talked a lot about what is it trying to do, but what that is it's the value proposition. Why is your business special? One business could be special because they've used technology to refine coffee to a certain very specific flavor profile, and it's still coffee, but there's this whole thing behind it. Another one could be very old school, where we only pick the beans by hand, and they're dried only under the California sun. Nowhere else in the world are they dried. So there's a specific hook. That all is part of your value proposition, and then that works into the so what factor.
Awesome. If you're a pre-revenue business, what metrics can be used to communicate, the work that your business is doing, the growth it's experienced, all that?
So I work with a lot of pre-revenue companies, and we talk about the potential. That's where having a really good CFO, even if it's a fractional CFO, come in, because we're getting cost projections, but we're also getting revenue projections. So it's not you just can't say, we hope that this is going to sell. It's like, we have done surveys. We have validated our hypothesis through tests. We, we went to the gift show in San Francisco and, surveyed 75 people that were there and asked them, would you pay $1.99 for this widget? Like, you have to validate all that, so that when you present your projection, your revenue projections, there's something behind it. There has to be some meat behind it. If you just come across as, we think this is going to be really cool, and my brother drinks a lot of coffee, and he said he'd buy a cup a day, that's not going to fly. Nobody's going to invest in you. But when you say, we did a online survey, in-person survey, we did 5 different demographic groups, and this is the compilation of those numbers, and we found that 1 in 3 people would spend $5 a day on our coffee. Okay, now you've got something to justify your revenue projections.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Thank you. What are your thoughts on kind of like breaking the ice, using humor, or kind of like casual interactions, in those first moments of interaction with someone?
Okay, so that's a great question. And don't. Be polite and engaging, and enthusiastic. Don't tell jokes. Let's face it, we live in an era of, you could tell a joke about vanilla ice cream and somebody is going to be offended.
Sure.
And the last thing you want to do is have that meeting go into the garbage because you told a stupid joke.
Right.
It's an old school technique. And Vitor, I see your comment. Being fun is great, but wait until the second or third meeting. Get to know these people a little bit. You just don't want to, crash and burn before you've gotten started. So let them know you're a fun person. When I meet with someone, they know that I have a sense of humor. It'll come out. I'm always smiling. It will happen, but don't force it. Even no matter how much you think this joke will offend no one, I promise you, if you're in the wrong group, it will offend someone.
Totally. Awesome. That's great advice. All right. To close us out. Oh, we got one more question. I'll include this one more question. Kind of expanding on the point of metrics, this person's kind of talking about letters of intent, but not sure how else they can show that there's interest in their company. So, you talked about surveys and kind of like understanding the behavior of your target audience. Are there any other tips you have there?
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I think it depends on what piece of the deck you're trying to prove. So if we're talking about how to prove revenue projections, letters of intent, industry benchmarks. So, you can maybe say, look, our investment firm may be new, but we have, the core team has 150 years of experience. We benchmark ourselves against a couple other companies, and here's what they're doing. Don't just use one metric. So, a letter of intent's not going to cut it. You need to have 3 to 5. Sure. And then if you're doing something different, you need to show that concept is proven. I love analogies when you can. So there's a company, I'm not going to think of the name of it, but they're kind of like a fractional vehicle ownership. So you have an app and you could just go get a car on the street and you put in your information. So you can say, we're like the Airbnb of car rental. Okay, now everybody knows what you're talking about. And you'll define it a little more as you go. And of course, and then be prepared, because somebody will say, so these are cars you can sleep in? Like, not literally. Right. That's where the sense of humor, where's Vitor? It's like it'll be funny. But but use that analogy. If you've got a standing desk rental, you could say, we're the Verbo of the standing desk business. People will understand that. So camper vans. And then Yvonne, yes, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. And I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you. So
awesome. All right. To finish us off, Ira, if you had one piece of wisdom to leave with the audience, something that has stuck with you or something from this conversation that you want to highlight, what would that be?
Be sincere. It's if you're so focused on making a sale, nobody likes salesmen, saleswomen. It's just be a solution provider. Be someone that is engaging and wants to have that conversation, and you're here to fill a need. When you are sincere and honest and a real person, your engagement will go up. If you're trying to sell something all the time, people will be like, I don't know that I need that. Right. So worry about opportunities and challenges, and the rest of it will come.
Awesome. Ira, it has been such an amazing time with you once again. Thank you for sharing such incredible insights, answering these questions we weren't able to get to last time. So on behalf of the Nasdaq Center and everyone here today, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks all. Appreciate it.
Awesome. And to our audience, we would love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view by using the link that's going to be posted in the chat. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.